conundrum of carbon credits. Carbon credits are an idea that have been recently gaining traction, perhaps in the news or in your day-to-day life. For example, perhaps you noticed that when you're booking a flight on an airplane, you now have an option to offset the CO2 emissions of your trip to support climate projects of the highest quality and impact. This is for a fee, of course. Or perhaps on the news, you read about large corporations or very influential people like Taylor Swift buying carbon credits to offset their carbon emission. But what exactly are carbon credits? Well, a subset of carbon credits, voluntary carbon credits, the ones that we're going to be talking about today, are a system in which corporations or individuals can buy carbon credits to offset their emissions. One carbon credit is equivalent to 1 ton of CO2. You can kind of think of one credit as a sort of currency, or a unit or value of measurement. This idea has been gaining a lot of popularity lately. Today, more than 5,000 companies have publicly said that they plan to be net zero by a time in the future, like 10 or 15 years. 53% of Forbes 2,000 companies have said that they would use carbon credits to offset their emissions. And this is really crucial because 57 really large companies are responsible for 80% of greenhouse gas emissions. So obviously this system of companies buying credits to offset their emissions seems like it could essentially solve the entire problem of carbon emissions, right? Some very popular companies that have been using carbon credits are Chevron, Comcast, Samsung, Shell, Microsoft, Apple, really just a lot. But how does this exactly work? Essentially, third-party sellers sell carbon credits through projects such as, for example, planting 500 trees in a rural area, or using actual technological innovations to take carbon out of the air. So these companies, these third-party companies, they essentially sell these credits to projects that supposedly help the environment. Some of the main big companies that this includes are TerraPass, Native Energy Solutions, Cool Effect, and Vera. Vera is actually one of the biggest companies that sells these credits. They account for about 40% of all of the carbon credits sold, which is in an industry which is a lot. However, with every solution that seems too good to be true, it usually is too good to be true. So the problem in this solution is the impact, or in other words, the non-existent impact. Many studies have shown that these carbon credits that supposedly do these projects to help the environment are actually just kind of really worthless. For example, one study showed that 90% of rainforest carbon offsets by the biggest certifiers are actually worthless, and one of the big companies that has these worthless credits is actually Vera, which I previously mentioned is a really big part of this industry. Another study covering 300 carbon offset projects found that the industry's top registries have consistently allowed developers to claim far more climate-saving benefits than justified. This is a study from researchers at the University of Berkeley. Another study in Indonesia, credits in Indonesia have been found to exaggerate their savings by almost 3 times as much as what they're actually doing. Another aspect of the feeling that these credits aren't actually doing anything is actually found in a loophole. A lot of these companies have sort of projects that are redundant. For example, if they choose not to cut 500 trees in a forest, then they've actually saved those 500 trees. and thus, therefore, they have gotten back to the environment however much carbon that these trees produce, which can be calculated. And another aspect of this is that decades of countries trading carbon offsets, they may have actually even increased the amount of carbon going into the atmosphere, because now that these companies are morally okay, they will be able to release more carbon into the environment. The fact that these credits aren't actually doing anything also isn't the biggest problem. Projects have also linked indigenous people being forced from their land and other human rights abuses, so that these companies can use their land to plant trees, do other carbon saving projects on their home to get more money. Another aspect of these carbon credits is that they actually are not really required or even suggested to have any long-term impact. The governmental agency, which has just this May released a set of guidelines to these carbon credits, they have said their suggested time is that the benefit must be left for 40 years, which I know seems like a lot of time, but in the long run, 40 years can go by in the blink of an eye. So this begs the question, why is this idea that it's really good in theory have such bad reviews? Essentially, before a carbon offsetting project takes place, they have to undergo a screening process through other third-party verifiers. These verifiers are companies such as the American Carbon Registry, the Climate Action Reserve, Verra, etc. Yes, Verra is a third-party verifier, and they also conduct projects related to these carbon credits, which seems a little bit suspicious. This May, the government released principles that the market should abide by in the project. However, despite these principles or guidelines, there is no real enforcement of these projects. There is no governmental other real authority that is checking, are these projects actually working? What is the outcome of these projects? And the companies that sell these carbon credits and do these projects, they themselves are also not very transparent. They don't have actual numbers published. They don't have published how much money they're getting, where is this money going, what percent, how many tons of carbon are they actually saving, etc. Additionally, these third-party verifiers, not the people who sell carbon credits, they also get a fraction of the money from the transaction every time they verify a credit. So thus they're also incentivized to verify as many of these credits as possible, even if these credits are potentially bogus. If one developer doesn't get the credit from one of these third-party verifiers, it's not really a problem. They can always just go to the next verifier that would be willing to verify their projects. There's actually a term for this that is called greenwashing, which means when third party or companies, they overstate the amount of benefit they're actually doing to sort of placate the public or convince everybody around them that progress is actually being made. However, this progress is a mirage, and it actually facilitates large corporations being able to expend more carbon than they had before, since the social consequences of being a large carbon-emitting company have essentially disappeared when you're able to put a band-aid on your carbon emissions by simply spending just a lot of cash. It is required to be said that not all of the corporations that buy carbon credits are buying them in bad faith. It's possible that many of them have good intentions. Individuals buying them, also, they may have good intentions because they believe that they're working toward a better planet in the future. However, the entity that is in bad faith in these transactions are the third-party companies that sell these credits. those are the ones that are essentially trying to make as much money as they can without actually showing results. So what are potential solutions that are possible? Well, one solution is an increased transparency and governmental regulations on these third-party verifiers. Some entity that actually looks at how, what the results of these projects. Are these projects even ethical? Are they taking care of everybody who's initially in the environment? Or are they pushing people out of their homes? Another potential solution is an increased awareness about carbon credits. Because another aspect of these carbon credits, which I previously mentioned, is that they're very socially acceptable. So removing that aspect of that social acceptability of these credits and increasing the awareness in the general public that these credits may not actually be doing anything would put additional pressure on these companies to actually have projects that are in good faith and are producing actual results. We all must work together as the public to ensure that in the future, this really great idea can actually have really great results. Thank you for listening.